Sponsored by Taylor Freelance, Rainier Ballistics, Hodgson Powders, and JPL Precision.
Hi, welcome to Power Factor. I'm Larry, and I am pleased to announce again the USPSA Carry Optics division is in full swing, and I'm going to show you some match videos. I've shot 2 matches so far in Carry Optics. I'm going to start by showing you some match videos. Now, we're not going to do a typical kind of match breakdown because so far in our section, at least the matches I've shot, I'm the only one shooting Carry Optics, and I'm pretty sure I'm the first one in the section that went for the Carry Optics. I got a lot of people checking out my gun, and I'll show you that later at the end of the episode, but a lot of people messaging me, asking me questions about how was it, what do I think, should they do it, so you know, do I think it's going to be a permanent division, which I think it is. You know, I have no say so, but from what I don't know, from kind of what I've been hearing, I think that there's very little chance that this is going to go away. I think it's going to become a permanent division. Whether it becomes permanent in its current form, that's another matter to be seen. You know, the board of directors is going to revisit this in January 2016 and talk about participation so far to that up to that point, and whether or not they need to tweak anything, and maybe it'll continue to be provisional, maybe it'll be adopted right away. That remains to be seen, but I think it's going to be a permanent thing in the sport. So over the past 2 weeks, I've shot 2 matches, 2 Sundays in a row, and so far I'm enjoying it quite a lot. So even though it's just kind of production optics, production gun with an optic, and no other real modifications allowed, despite that, I gotta say, it's a lot of fun. So like I say, it's not gonna be like a regular match breakdown because I'm the only guy shooting it and there's kind of no scores to compare to, and I haven't really sat down and compare to production shooters or anything like that, and I'm just still kind of getting used to the gun, so getting used to the optic, so that's kind of not a fair comparison anyway. So, but I do just want to show you some videos, kind of show you what some of the stages look like, kind of my performance on those stages, kind of at least how I shot the stages, and we'll just kind of start going through that right now, starting with my first ever Carry Optics stage up at the Kuster range, Kuster, Washington. So check this one out.
Are you ready? Stand by. If you're finished, I'm going to show clear sight for him.
Okay, so hey, that was my very first ever, the first ever in the section, the Northwest section, Carry Optics stage ever shot. So as you see, I started on the paper, and the steel was just falling like it was magic. I mean, it was like cheating with the dot. Just, you know, and you open shooters know that. I mean, just place the dot on the target, pull the trigger, maintain the dot on the target. It might wobble a little bit, but just focus on that target, keep the dot there as you press the trigger, and bam, magically the steel falls like almost every time. I had a couple of makeup shots on the steel of that stage, but for the most part, cleaned the steel pretty quick, and I was pretty happy with myself. The one thing I screwed up on, if you notice at the very end there was an 8-round plate rack, which I don't think I've ever seen an 8-round plate rack, and didn't realize I didn't lean out far enough to see the 8th plate. So I think my first shot missed, but then I went 1 for 1 for the 7 plates, and I wasn't counting plates. I just said, hey, I got all the plates that I can see from here, and I just thought I was done. But I left one standing, but otherwise I was, you know, pretty pumped up and not really thinking too much about strategy or anything like that. I'm not competing against anybody. No one else is shooting the division yet at that point. So, you know, not that I want to leave steel standing or not that I want to miss targets or anything like that, but I was just tickled to death after my first stage that it worked out as well as it did. let's go on to the next stage. The primary reason for showing this stage, you'll see, this is a ton of fun.
Are you ready? Stand by.
Okay, so that was our second stage of the match, and as you can see, we're shooting from a John Deere Gator. The start position, actually it was funny, the start position was step 1, select your driver, step 2, unloaded gun in the glove box, which there was a padded gun bag in there to place your gun inside, and then there was a start line, and on start signal the driver starts driving and you got to grab the gun and take a mag off your belt, load the gun, and go from there. Normally I don't like that kind of stage because there's no way to be consistent because you don't have the same driver every time, and so consistency is a tough thing, and generally for me, I like stages, I prefer stages that would pass muster for a national competition. This would never pass muster in a national competition. But you know what? After being done with that, you couldn't not walk away from there with a smile on your face. I mean, how fun is that to shoot however many 10 targets from a moving vehicle, and then the steel poppers you saw, 2 full size and 2 small poppers, were out there about 40 yards, and my driver stopped short adding a couple of yards to my shots. But I was, had to settle down a little bit. I had just had a few rounds left in the magazine when I arrived there and reloaded. And then I think I took a total of 10 shots to hit those 4 poppers out there at 40 yards, which is not great, but probably better than I would normally do with iron sights. So, and that dot covered a good amount of the target out at that range. But like I say, with iron sights, I probably wouldn't be able to hit those things inside of 10 shots anyway. So I think the Optic was a definite benefit there on those long shots, and just a fun stage all around. I mean, like I say, you can't be upset after doing something like that. This next stage is Bay 1. They're kind of halls and walls, real quick movements, and a lot of steel in this whole match because there was some rain predicted, so they loaded it up with steel to help cut down on how much taping of targets we'd have to do, and then it didn't rain, so which was good all around, good for me all around. And so here's another one I want to show you.
Are you ready? Stand by.
Seriously.
Oh, God.
I would have waited.
That's right, if you finish unloading so clear.
All right, so that was, typical for that bay. It's a narrow bay, kind of a long bay, and a lot of tight back and forth movement, a lot of close-up targets. But the key there is, I screwed up grabbing the rope. I do that a lot. I don't know what the problem is when I'm more focused on getting the gun out of the holster, not really thinking about accurately grabbing the rope. So I always bump it away and then have to wait till it swings back and I grab it. But that aside, the important lesson here is down at the end of the stage, going pretty much 1 for 1 on the steel. Get down to the end and there's 2 paper targets and there's 4 steel plates. Ding, 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 ding. Reload the mag. I want a fresh mag with only 10 rounds. I'm not used to counting only to 10. I'm used to shooting limited, but load up with a fresh mag. Get ready for that Texas Star. missed the first shot, but then 1 for 1 after that, except for that last plate, which you saw I hit it, it didn't fall off, and then, you know, a few seconds later, I'm re-engaging it. By the time I realize it's a few seconds later, and I re-engage the plate as it's falling off, and I hit it anyway. So I added a few seconds to my time, but the important lesson there was, wow, I mean, hitting all that steel with so few shots, so few extra shots, is totally not like me. And the Optic, just such a benefit. I couldn't believe how great it was going to be, and just again tickled to death with how it's working out so far. Here's another stage from the same match.
Are you ready? Stand by. Finish on show clear. Clear, Classifier, hammer down, holster. Range is clear. Like that.
All right, so that stage, the start position, the gun was inside the van, unloaded, and of course you start at the front of the van, run around that little wall, dive into the van, and load up the gun. And there was 4 targets out the right window, plate rack, 6-round plate rack out the back with the smaller 6-inch square plates, and then 6 poppers plus a paper out to the left side, out the door of the van. And that could not have gone better. I mean, what a great stage. Well, it could have gone a little bit better. I was a little slow, and so far you've seen on these videos, I'm a little slow to reload the gun. I'm not used to shooting the compact gun yet. It's been a while since I've shot it. You know, I'm mostly shooting limited with long mags and a big mag well, and I just toss them in there. But that aside, once the shooting started, it was awesome. It was just totally awesome. I mean, my hits on paper have generally been pretty good so far. But with, you know, a larger target to aim at, I've been a little sloppier as to where the dot's going to be on the target, going a little bit more for speed. But when I'm getting up on those steel plates, I'm not allowing that dot to wobble outside of the plate as I'm pulling the trigger on each one of those things. And the same with the poppers. So as you've seen so far for this match, I mean, shooting the steel has just been like magical. Just been wonderful. So now here's a few stages from a match that we shot the following week.
Are you ready? Stand by. If you're finished, I'm going to show clear. If clear, hammer down and holster.
All right, so that stage had a lot of hard leans and swingers, and there was even a strip of a no-shoot target that pretty much covered, I think, the D zone of just one side of each of those 2 swingers. But as you see, facing up range, turn, draw, go to one side or the other, and lean hard around that wall. And first 4 steel, ding, 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 steel came down. The paper targets on this stage required 3 rounds each, which is why you saw me shoot them so many times. The 4th shot for insurance here and there. But I was a little slow on the swingers, giving them kind of 1 presentation per shot, or 2 shots per presentation, 1 coming out, 1 as it's going back. But overall, it's working out. Again, the gun's working out very good. The sighting system, the Optic, is just it's It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. What else can I say? I got 2 more stages to show you from that match. Here's the next one.
Are you ready? Stand by. Ska jag finisha någon show clear? Clear, släpp på hemma där hos. Range is clear.
All right, so that was a classifier, Hill-Bilton drill from the 99 series classifiers. I like that one a lot. It's one I usually shoot pretty well. This one, and even at this range, actually, one comment I want to make about this particular shooting range is that the bays face south. And by the time it's like 10 a.m. when we start shooting, the sun, and being way up north in Seattle, the sun doesn't rise in the east and set in the west like most places. It rises in the southeast, sets in the southwest. So, because we're so far north. And the one thing when you're facing kind of into the sun is sometimes there's a little bit of a flare, a little bit of a glare on the lens. And sometimes at this particular range, it is more difficult to find the dot on your lens right away. So, and I know that from shooting open in the past at this particular shooting range, and pulling the gun up and going, come on, where's that dot? Fishing around for it. I know that on this gun, if I can't find it right away, I just bring the gun straight up and then straight back down, and where the front sight would be, I'd bring it back into the lens until I dip it down low enough to find that dot. That's what I'm doing so far. This is all still very new to me with the carry optics. But anyway, that's a classifier I usually like quite a lot. Didn't probably do quite so well on this one because I was getting ahead of the dot. I was getting ahead of the sights. The first 2 shots on steel hit, but I think I must have hit the same steel. I was trying to split that edge between the back one and the front one on the left, and then I ran across, and I was just a little bit ahead or behind one or the other. And as I came back from right to left, my second pass, then I got them all. So slower than it should have been. But anyway, that's a look at more of a kind of a speed course, even though it's classifier, a little bit more of a speed shoot of 16 rounds. And then I got one more stage to show you from my latest match.
Are you ready? Stand by. Finish and then show clear. Clear, släpp på här med det här. Range is clear.
All right, so no steel on that stage, but every single target had a no-shoot covering more than half of it. There was a lot of different ways to run that stage. There's basically kind of 4 targets up near the start, and I think probably the intent was to run down the middle, down the hallway, but I decided to take a 5th target that was a little further out. Having the optic really helped with that. I'll tell you, I think one of the hardest things for me with iron sights is when you got that blade, that rear blade, and you've got some kind of a penalty happening below the blade, whether it's a hardcover or a no shoot, and you want to shoot, you want to get down low as close as you can to where that penalty is at, because that's where the A zone's at. But you can't see it because it's below the blade. Having the optic, both eyes open, you see the dot, you place it right where you want it, you can see everything above the dot, below the dot, left and right, and just everything. That was a big benefit on a stage like this. So I was more confident in taking that longer shot through the doorway. It was the second target I engaged. And then from there I was able to run outside of the shooting area while I was reloading and come back in to finish out the course. Fairly quick shooting when I was when the targets were close. Fairly precise shooting when the targets were farther away. That's the main benefit of an optic sight, for sure. So in general, I'm extremely happy with the gun. I'm extremely happy with the Division. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's going to be really great. So now you're chomping at the bit to see the gun, right? So here she is. So we've talked about the Optic, and that is the Trijicon RMR. It is the model RM05G, if you're curious. So that's the cheapest of all three of the RMRs. Anytime you see the RMR with this this white strip going over the hood, that's the fiber optic that collects light that powers the optic. It's also tritium powered. There are no batteries and no electronics to fail. Older sights would fail when they were on the slide being beaten to death on the slide of a handgun. Older sights, possibly some current models. I don't know for sure. Do your own research, but my hope is that because that there are no electronics in this sight, that it will be rugged and reliable for many, many years. So again, that's the RM05G model. That is a 9-minute of angle, 9 MOA green dot, which one of the things I've always wanted in a handgun optic, as for years, a few years, I've been considering and hoping to build an open gun someday, and the one of the things I wanted was a green dot. And finally Trijicon came out with this model, and I'm very happy with it. It collects light very well when you're outside in the sun, obviously. Even when it's overcast, it collects plenty of light to make the dot plenty bright enough. When you're in really dim light, it's not quite so good, but my shooting from the van, from inside the van, it was noticeably dimmer. I did notice that it was dimmer than it was when I was outside the van on other stages, but it wasn't so dim that I couldn't run the gun. I mean, I just said, hey, there's the dot, put it on the target, pull the trigger. I'm seeing that the dot is dimmer, but it was not a big deal to me at all. I was showing this off to a couple of folks at a range at the latest match I shot in the safety area, which was covered, a lot of trees and a covered area, and it was pretty dark in there. And they were like, thinking, oh boy, that dot is awfully dim. I don't know how you deal with that. So it's not that bad when you're outside, when you got the sky visible to the gun. Now, of course, I haven't shot it in the wintertime, haven't shot it in low light stages, haven't done any of that stuff, but so far, normal outdoor conditions, I think it's great. So all credit goes to Grizz Precision on the mounting of that. You'll see that it is cut into the slide. I forget how deep it's cut, but it's right to the top of the serrations almost. You can kind of see the curvature of the slide there, and it's just above the point where the slide starts curving over. I think it's 0.15 inch deep. And you'll notice that I went through many, decisions about where to place this thing. One thing they said that they would do typically is that they could put it in front of the rear sight by about 50 thou, and that is not so far forward to get into the safety plunger of the Glock. To me, I was looking at some of those images of guns that they'd done that way, and I thought the lens was a little too close to the ejection port, and I didn't want anything impacting the lens. And I thought, you know what? I'm not going to put a rear sight. I'm not going to put co-witness suppressor type sights on here to co-witness through here. I'm just a pure competition shooter. I've shot open guns before, albeit this is the first one I've owned with an optic on the slide. My previous open gun, as you saw in a recent episode, had an optic mounted to the frame. But this is my first slide mounted optic. And I thought, you know, I'm not going to put iron sights on this thing, so let's just move it back further and eliminate the rear dovetail and just go with that. So far, I'm very happy with that. Grizz did an amazing job at getting this thing perfectly machined in there. The cut that they made is, actually a square cut, so you see there's a little bit of a gap right here where the sight has some curvature to it, but the cut is square. But in terms of length, I mean, they even took into account the thickness of the coating when they made that cut. When I first got the gun, I dropped the sight in there with no screws or anything. I tried moving it back and forth, and there was no play at all front to back. I mean, that cut was perfect length. And the screws dropped right in to the holes drilled and tapped into the slide there. I did have them refinish it, as I mentioned. This is a Cerakote. You see it's a little bit lighter than the frame. It's a gray color they call terminal gray, I do believe. I asked for gunmetal gray or something similar. This is what they had, and they showed me a sample of it, and I said, looks fine to me, whatever. Looked fine to me. I think it looks kind of nice with a little bit of a contrast to the frame, the barrel, the optic, and I don't know, I think it looks good. In case I didn't mention it, this is a Glock Model 23, which is a 40 caliber compact, same size as a Glock 19. You know me as the 40 guy, and I can very easily shoot minor 40 caliber. I can very easily load minor 40 caliber, and it works great. Using Rainier 135 bullets, and those happen to be the same bullets I like for major open division too. So that's kind of nice. One bullet serves two purposes. So what else can I say? I don't know what else to say. I like the optic. I like the work that Grizz did on the gun. I gotta admit, I was a little bit nervous through this whole process. Just from a financial perspective, it was a little bit, little unsure. I'm laying out all this cash. Is it really going to work? Is it going to be all it's cracked up to be? And I got to say, after that first match, and now after the second match, I'm very pleased with my decision to go through with this and to get the optic, to mount it to the gun, and it's just been great. So if you guys are thinking about trying carry optics, if you're kind of on the fence, I say go for it. I'm starting to get, like I said, people asking me about it, people telling me that they're doing it, that what they're going to do. They've got an M&P core, or I know another guy that just bought a Glock 41. He likes 45, but it's got the MOS. It's ready for an optic. He's got an optic on it. I don't know if he shot it in a match yet, but I think for sure he's tested it, because when he showed it to me, it was still warm. But yeah, I think it's going to be great. I think there's going to be a lot of people doing it, and I think you should too. If you're on the fence, I say go for it. It's a blast. It's such a blast to shoot with an optic. Just dot on target, pull trigger, repeat as necessary. So I don't know if you have any other questions for me. Let us know if you're going to do it. I want to hear from you. Let me know what gun you got, what gun you're considering using. If you want any tips, if you have any questions, any advice, go ahead and write us. Our email, of course, is powerfactorshow@gmail.com. Check us out on Facebook and like us on Facebook, and subscribe to us on YouTube, and check out our sponsors as always. We really appreciate the support we get from our sponsors. Helps us play in the sport we love and bring you these range time episodes. So thanks to Rainier Ballistics, Hodgdon Powder, Taylor Freelance. If you want one of those sweet custom 2011 open guns, get in line. JPL Precision is very busy, but get in line. He makes nice guns. And then definitely check out Grizz Precision. They're not a sponsor, but they did some great work on my gun. They're military veterans. They deserve your business. They do some nice work down there. So until next week, see you later.